Wife? 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 Wife?
Yes, dear?
I've been calling now for 4 hours. Did you not hear me?
I was in the garden doing the gardening. You could have called a bit louder, dear.
You know I never raise my voice. In fact, I'm quite offended you've forgotten.
You could have come and found me.
I've only got 1 leg.
No, you haven't.
Quite.
So why have you called me in here, Jonathan?
Please, call me Mr. Johnson.
But I'm your wife.
The truth is, Agatha, I thought you'd need a seat. For the truth is, I've got something rather important to tell you. The truth is, I wasn't calling for you. I was calling for the maid.
The maid?
The maid?
The maid?
Quite. So I'm going to call for the maid. Wife? Wife?
I'm here, dear.
No, not you, the maid. Mrs. Wife.
Oh, yes. Mrs. Wife. Quite.
Quite.
Well, if you're going to be spending time with the maid, I shall go and continue with the gardening. The geraniums are looking quite spectacular.
Spectacular?
Spectacular.
Quite. Darling,
Yes, dear.
if you see Mrs. Wife, could you tell her I need to speak to her?
Miss Wife.
Miss Wife? And she has children.
I know. Scandalous. Quite.
Quite.
Miss Wife. Oh, do please call me Julia. And anyway, it's Mrs. Wife. Oh, you're married? Yes, quite married. Oh. Oh, I see. Quite. Oh, spectacular. And you have children? Oh no, my form is quite shriveled. Anyway, I was talking to Jonathan. I said to Jonathan. The Lord of Manor? Yes, what I said to him. I said to him, Jonathan, why are you calling me, dear? And you know, he was calling me, and I said to him, how could I possibly hear you when I was in the garden doing the geraniums, the lovely geraniums, they are looking spectacular. Oh, yes. And I said to him, Jonathan, Jonathan said to me, and I said to Jonathan said to me that he needed to talk to you. Oh, really? Yes. And where is he? In the parlour? He's in the parlour, yes. I shall meet him there then. Oh, fantastic. Enjoy your geraniums. Quite. Oh, Mr. Johnson!
Wife? Wife? What?
Hello, Mr. Johnson. Mrs. Johnson told me you needed me.
Miss Wife?
Oh, yes, call me Julia. Anyway, it's Miss Wife. It's French, you know.
Oh, I have a cousin in France.
Oh, really?
Yes, Johan. Actually, that might be Germany.
I think it may be.
I get confused.
Anyway, what was it you needed me for?
I was pondering for a while.
Oh, really?
About the misplacement of one of my garments.
Oh, golly, gosh. Not your overcoat, surely?
No, fear not, and it's not my shirt either, otherwise I would be quite... quite...
Cold?
No, not cold, indecent.
Oh, quite indecent.
I'm sure you'd be blushing.
I would be, but I know Mrs. Johnson wouldn't be. I've heard the stories, you know, Mr. Johnson, of your holiday last year to Cornwall.
Miss Wife, I believe you are forgetting yourself.
Oh, golly, I think I am. Who am I?
You're French.
Oui. Am I?
No, I was just kidding you.
Oh, quite, you are quite the kidder.
I am quite the kidder, quite.
Anyway, what was it you lost?
My sock,
Oh, gosh!
as you can see.
Almost as bad as losing a stocking.
A what?
Jonathan, I said, Jonathan. Who calling me Jonathan, obviously. I'm looking up my... Agatha! Agatha!
Yes,
Mrs.
yes.
Johnson! I was just hoping to have a word. I think you may need to sit down for this awful news. Yes, I need you to sit. Have a seat, my lady. Quickly. Lovely, Johnny. Right. Anyway, this news I have is almost as awful as that time I lost your stocking last year. Oh, dear, don't remind me of that terrible time. Oh, you know I had nothing to wear in Cornwall that year.
Oh, I heard. You know, I've heard the stories, Mrs. Johnson.
I do believe you're forgetting yourself, madam.
Oh, I am. Who am I?
You're German.
Oh, yeah. Am I?
No, I was just kidding.
Oh, you're such a kidder.
Anyway, basically the news is your husband, Mr. Johnson, Jonathan Johnson Estate, has lost his sock.
Oh, please be careful, Mrs. Johnson. Please remember your weak constitution. It has been ever so bad since the stocking incident.
Yes, it has, dear.
It has.
Yes.
So breathe deeply now.
Jonathan, I never know which fork to use first. Jonathan, tell me quick, what a disgrace to English society I am.
You just go from the outside in, dear, like killing a badger.
Here we are, madam. Your stars are of dried orange, with a little dried orange for you too, sir.
Mrs. Joyfay, could you stay there just for a time?
I do believe we should say grace.
The dear Lord.
Oh, dear Lord.
Amen.
Amen.
Please don't leave. I've asked you to stay for a time.
Oh, yes, so did. I'm never sure of how long a time is these days.
It changes. It certainly does.
It certainly does.
It certainly does.
Yes,
Quite.
quite.
2 hours ago, we informed my wife that I was missing a sock. 4 hours before that, I lost my sock.
That
It
is
was
true.
probably former to that I lost the sock. It was at this 4 hours point previously that I didn't realise I lost the sock.
Well, quite. I was wondering, Mrs. Agatha, if you had any ideas. Have you any idea?
Well, I was thinking perhaps we could go to the North Pole. I hear there are lots and lots of socks there.
There are.
It's very cheap.
They're very true. I don't think
However-
it do your constitution any good at all.
No, and it would be very, very expensive.
Well,
Not that that matters.
Well, we still don't have enough money, dear.
maybe I could knit him a pair.
You could attempt to do that, yes. Or, I have a brilliant idea.
Yes?
What we could do is we could all get down on our hands and knees and search the entire house.
No Johnson is getting on their knees.
Ooh. Well, you didn't Cornwall. I've heard the stories, Mr. Johnson.
All this talk about Cornwall and Mrs. Weefay is making me quite angry.
I believe it's Miss Weefay.
No, it's actually Mrs. Weefay, but she has no whom.
Yeah. Now look what you've done. With mention of her shriveled womb, she's left the room.
No!
Yes.
No!
Yes.
No!
Yes.
No!
Quite.
Oh, there, dear, calm down. There's no need to weep uncontrollably on the edge of the sofa, which is what you shouldn't be.
I think you'll find, Mrs. Agatha, that I'm not weeping on the edge of the sofa being Chanel. I'm in fact crying hysterically on the edge of the sofa made from Chanel. It's not just the fact that you mentioned my shriveled womb to Mr. Johnson. It was many other things. You know, in this house I have one job and one job only, and that's to keep Mr. Johnson's socks in line, as well as the washing and cleaning and all the other jobs that just come with my job. I have several jobs, not just one single job. But anyway, I failed! I, Mrs. Weefay, the maid at Johnston Manor, has failed in her one task of keeping Mr. Johnson's socks in order. I just don't know.
Please, Mrs. Weefay.
No! You must listen. I fear I don't know who I am. I'm unsure of my place in society as a woman. Kiss me?
Quite.
So that's what happened in Cornwall.
Quite. And I found the sock.
Quite.
Quite.